Thanks again for joining. For the people who are on, we're going to publish this live stream probably end of next week. So on our YouTube channel at rostarchitects.com. So there'll be a chance to rewatch it. Yeah, today we're going to answer the question, which is a question that I love. It's what types of features and spaces should I incorporate into my custom home? Now, I really like this question because many people may be expecting me to answer it with items such as a pool, an elevator, a theater, barbecue, kind of these typical items that one may assume are brought up to the architect in preliminary meetings, and they are. But these features, they're important to define. But when designing a home, I advocate for trying to find the why beneath each of these desires. So going a little bit deeper. So before answering the question about the specific features that you want in the home, it helps to ask, what is the intention of the home on a more kind of fundamental and personal level? So that question about intention is kind of what we want to focus on today. I want to mention that this thought process and the ideas that I'm going to be kind of communicating today are not limited to those people just building a new ground up custom home. They can also be applicable to those renovating, modifying their existing homes, or even making very minor interior adjustments of furniture and spaces. Even those reconsidering things in their workspaces or office environments, the same logic can be applied to any space that you inhabit on a regular basis. Also, these things don't need to cost a fortune. Simple adjustments to your existing space can be incredibly effective and economical too. So before we get into it, I want to give you a little bit of information about myself and ROST. My name is Mitch Rushlow. I'm the principal architect at ROST Architects in Orange County, California. ROST was established in 2017, and we do work really all over the Southern California region, primarily Orange County and LA, and then some of the desert regions. Some projects also out of state, including Montana, New Mexico, Texas, and we're in the middle of a project overseas in Japan, which is exciting. We've worked on many different scales of projects, ranging from small remodels to custom ground up large estate homes and properties. I've been doing this for a long time, so hopefully I can share a lot of that experience with you and make your journey building a custom home a bit more rewarding, and make sure it's a memorable, positive experience for you. I'll go into a little bit about my degrees. So I received an undergraduate degree from Texas A&M and a graduate degree in architecture from UCLA. I've been on construction sites since I was a kid and have worked in many other industry sectors related to the construction of custom homes, including the financing side and the development side. I try to come at the projects from these different angles. So in addition to creating a beautiful home aesthetically, also making sure that it's functional, it's practical, and it's sound from an engineering and construction perspective, and that I'm responsibly, or our team is responsibly managing the client's financial investment. This is often one of the largest financial investments that people will make. And as an architect on a project, we want to provide counsel that guides clients in the right direction. So at ROST, we focus on custom residential work, as I mentioned, that establishes a strong connection with the landscape, uses natural materials, and it optimizes views out to nature. Our projects usually aim to create a place of tranquility and retreat for our clients, where they can feel comfortable, relaxed, and their minds are at ease. I enjoy the simple spaces, unadorned spaces where the site and natural materials are celebrated. So let's get back to the core topic today. Before we can begin identifying the most important features of a home, again, let's explore this question: what are my intentions for the house, for the home, or the space? There may be multiple layers of intention for a project or a home, and they may change over time with the fluidity of life, but crafting a general statement to clarify the ideas at the outset of a project helps to set the tone for the design process, and also it gives the project more depth and richness, often yields a better product at the end. So knowing your intentions, ask yourself why you're building the house. And this may seem really elementary and kind of simplistic, but it can be easily overlooked. So ask yourself, why are you building the house? And be honest, be brutally honest. Are you building it to create a place of tranquility for yourself and for your family? Are you building it to serve as a space that supports a life of health and wellness? Are you building it as a place to foster kind of a creative or artistic vocation? You can also write down the not so flattering maybe motives. Are you building it to impress friends? Are you building it to some other need? But be brutally honest with yourself in the process. Next, write down the daily rituals or acts that support these intentions. So for example, if one of your intentions is to create a place of clarity, peace, and productivity, the rituals that support this are possibly a ritual of morning meditation, journaling, maybe with a cup of coffee, whatever it may be. Is one intention possibly to create a space to facilitate your wellness and longevity? The rituals to support this may be daily exercise, yoga, and a nice cooking space to prepare healthy meals, kind of to support that that endeavor or that intention of a healthy, well-balanced wellness lifestyle. So try to describe the ritual and what the space looks like. Envision yourself performing that ritual, the act of it. Where's the light going to be? Whether are you going to get morning sun? Do you want morning sun? Do you want afternoon sun? The materials and textures in the space, whether a writing surface in the scenario of a morning meditation and journaling space. If there's a writing surface involved, where is that located? Is it by a window so you can get some views? Try to be as specific as possible in describing the space. These little narratives or these little verbal descriptions at the within the preliminary conversations with your architect can really help them get a vision of those daily rituals, those acts that you intend to practice within your home. It can show that they're important to the client, and it adds clarity to where the architect's or the designer's head should be at when laying out and starting to design the spaces. So through this exercise and this process, the client and the architect can start to gain deep intentionality and purpose behind each space in the home. We know that this ritual, and thus the accompanying space, is important because it contributes to one of the core intentions. Therefore, it should be prioritized. So it's a really kind of logical and systematic way to prioritize spaces in your home. I think doing this will also create and yield a much deeper and richer connection and appreciation for the home after it's built. So when you inhabit that space, when the physical building comes into reality, you will understand the deep intentionality behind each one of these spaces. And that gives you more of an appreciation for it, a deeper connection for it. And you know that it's thoughtfully executed and thoughtfully done. Okay, so go through the process of developing the intentions with the accompanying rituals, and then work with your architect to assemble these into a table or a document. So I'm going to get a little bit more pragmatic and practical at this point after we've gone through this exercise of identifying rituals. Okay, so along with the spaces that you've defined as the intentional spaces, also list out with your architect the more practical spaces needed to make the home function daily. Things like laundry room, pantry, these more functional kind of practical spaces. Those also are important in incorporating into a home. Okay, so there's a formal industry name for this process of defining what spaces will be in a project. It's called programming. So programming is this act of creating the list of desired spaces, and often it's accompanied with square footages associated with those rooms. So typical square footage, allotments for each one of the spaces. It's a way for an architecture team, construction team, and an owner to obtain early cost estimates for the home, also early square footage estimates for how large is this thing going to be. If we have a list of all of the owner's desired spaces, these intentional spaces that we're talking about, these kind of pragmatic functional spaces that we're talking about, if we apply standard square footage requirements to each one of those and add those up, okay, what is that total square footage that we're getting? that may be way out in left field from what the other kind of variables, budgetary requirements on the project need to be in alignment with. So we want to make sure that there's a reconciliation between the program list and what the other variables are, mainly budget and also square footage requirements, depending upon the zone that we're in and the jurisdiction's requirements that we're having to adhere to. So in the programming phase, we're going to assign the typical square footages. Let me just go through a little bit of an example here. For example, if we have three bedrooms at 150 square feet each, a living room at 400 square feet, a kitchen at 300 square feet, then we're going to tabulate all those, add the square footages together to gauge the alignment with the overall allowable square footage and the project budget. And your architect can help you allocate those kind of standard or typical square footages to each one of those spaces. They'll know, say, how big roughly is a standard bedroom? Okay, 12 by 12, 14 by 14, somewhere around there. Okay, so if you go to your architect's office at the beginning of a project and he asks you, he or she asks you, what is your program? Now you're going to know what they're talking about. Okay, after the base program is developed, the architect's job is to inject their creativity into the project and begin to create. So they're going to interpret this data, these discussions that you've had, conversations that you've had with them about your intentions, your daily rituals, your kind of pragmatic functional requirements. They're going to interpret those through their lens and begin to produce designs, whether that be in the form of floor plans, massing studies, or models, to bring that data into physical space. The philosophy and design sense of the architect will determine that interpretation really looks like. So it's important at the beginning of the maybe conversation with your architect or interview process with your architect, that the architect's philosophy is in alignment with, to some degree, with maybe your core philosophies or outlooks on life. Understanding what the architect's philosophies are is really important. Them being clear about what those are and how do they actually implement those philosophies into real space or their design projects. If you'd like to kind of learn more about our philosophies, there's an article at rostarchitects.com that lays out relatively clearly a handful of our core philosophies, if you're interested in that. Okay, so often clients may have difficulty developing or unpacking intentions for their homes, or they come up with a couple core intentions. And then we like to offer, as the architectural and design team, a list of other common intentions that we have seen that seem to kind of resonate with other clients and seem to be kind of brewing in our space and the space at large outside of our industry. So we'll offer these other options as forms of inspiration. So one of the common intentions that we see is to create a place for body and mind wellness. That's a really, really common one that over the past 10 to 15 years, I've seen it more and more come up in projects. I would say it's rare that we have a home that we're designing and working on where there's not some sort of space dedicated to a wellness ritual. So this type of intention and rituals can be brought into a design through the installation of or the creation design of saunas, cold plunges, gyms, meditation spaces, steam showers, hyperbaric chambers, massage rooms, and spas. These are just some of the common features that more and more people are asking to have in their homes. Okay, in a similar vein, in this wellness vein, people seem to be more focused on their sleep quality, which I know there's a lot of science coming out about the importance of sleep. So this seems to be a really kind of hot topic with clients, the ability to black out their rooms to control the amount of natural light coming into their rooms, circadian lighting systems, so lighting systems that change color temperature throughout the day, from a warmer light to a cooler light. Those are something that is being asked about a lot. And then the use of sound and acoustic control systems to create kind of really tight, acoustically tight sleeping spaces seems to be on the rise as well. Another common intention is to reduce complexity and support peace and tranquility in the owner's daily life. So this type of intention seems to be on the rise, especially in this kind of fast-paced world that we live in. We're hyper-connected, we're inundated with information, with imagery, with news all the time. So creating these spaces where people can retreat to and have a bit of a respite, or a space that they can be kind of unplugged or detached from that hyper-connective and kind of hyperactive world. Creating the unadorned spaces with curated material palettes, minimalist detailing, those promote clear and contemplative thinking in our design. So pared back spaces that where the interior spaces and the architecture are minimized to only their essential elements. This helps evoke this sense of calmness and peace and reinforces this intention on a daily basis. Okay, another common intention that we see is to connect and engage more with nature, which is a great one that I really enjoy, and this kind of lies at the core of a lot of our philosophies and our practice. So to connect and engage more with nature. Connection with nature is, in my opinion, and I say this to a lot of clients, is one of the biggest luxuries that you can have. I think even more than, especially more than, let's say, square footage or ornate detailing. I would rather have a smaller, higher quality home with more connection and more direct relationship with nature rather than additional square footage. And obviously that is either appropriate for a certain owner's requirements and project's requirements or not, depending upon if it's a spec home, if the intention of the home is for resale, that maybe core tenant will be not so high on the priority list because you're looking at creating a home with larger square footage. But in general, if we can establish a kind of deep connection with nature, that is something that we will do in our jobs. Okay, we'll also do this through integrating large expanses of glass that allows large views out to gardens, and any kind of nice view that we have on the site. Also done through the integration of natural materials into the projects, natural materials that run, let's say, from the exterior of the home through to the interior of the house. That's a really nice way to bring nature into the home. We'll look at the site if we have kind of a rural site. Let's say maybe out in the desert, we'll look at the native natural stone out on site, if there's natural boulders out on site, and we'll try to use a similar exterior material possibly that speaks to that same stone in tone, texture, and color, and then collab the home with that so the house feels at home in nature rather than feeling detached from it. That helps to bring the house, kind of ground the house in the earth, and helps to suggest this feeling of its connection with nature, and thus the owner's connection with nature. Another item on this is the integration, or in the similar vein of an owner's intention to establish a more close relationship with nature, is the integration of indoor and outdoor spaces in our projects. This is, again, a kind of key and core tenet of many of our jobs. Large outdoor decks, patios that are accessed through large sliding doors that, when opened, provide this kind of seamless integration of indoor and outdoor spaces so that you can feel possibly like you're in close relationship with a garden, and that you're unencumbered with a barrier. Outdoor gardening spaces with edible plants. I've seen this more and more be requested from clients. So gardening spaces, small gardening beds placed outside of the home in close proximity to the kitchen so that clients can go out and pick herbs, can pick vegetables, and bring those into their kitchen and cook with those. That seems to be really something that's on the rise. And it not only contributes to this idea or this intention of the close connection with nature, but also it's in alignment with the idea of the producing a space of health and wellness. So if you're eating the food that you and cooking with the food that you produce, that's going to contribute to your sense of health and wellness. Okay, something that since COVID we've seen a lot is a space to pursue a vocation, right, or a career. But oftentimes I've seen it come in the form of a vocation. So people are creating, obviously, in-home offices or in-home workspaces where they're creating a office or a study or a studio where they can pursue their work. But it's often also kind of hybridized with this idea about a vocation or a artistic pursuit or hobby. They will have creative space inside of this office. And I really, really like that idea because it's kind of nourishing for their soul. It's nourishing for their person to be able to have a dedicated space to pursue their vocation. A common one that I think has been pretty consistent. This is not something new. This is something that we've been, as humans, been doing since. It's a very primitive instinct, is to create and foster gatherings with food preparation spaces to establish deeper relationships and community with the people in my life. So there are many different ways that you can do this. You can do this with outdoor cooking spaces. You can do this with indoor cooking spaces. You can have a relationship established with an indoor dining area and an outdoor cooking space. But these large or let's say generous sized gathering spaces where cooking and creating meals, the act of doing that is hybridized and combined with a place for eating. And that's it's becoming, it seems like, more of a fluid and informal scenario where it's not this kind of structured dining room that people just use for holidays. It's this kind of fluid space where the act of cooking and sitting and having conversation and talking is all becoming one. And I really, really like this idea. I think it creates a really super interesting spaces, especially if you start to wrap in and layer connectivity to nature, to views. You start to layer in all these things, and it creates these very dynamic spaces that are super attractive for owners, and it's also very attractive and enjoyable for their company, friends, and family to inhabit with them. Okay, so once your intentions are defined, answering the original question about which features you should have in your custom home is going to be relatively straightforward. I realize we asked a question at the outset. We're kind of looking a little bit deeper in that, underneath it, and asking the questions about your rituals and intentions. That will provide us the information on the features, the physical features that you want in your home. So I hope you enjoyed this live stream. It was a bit more maybe theoretical and abstract than what we had done in the previous session. The previous session was very logical and talking more about the kind of practicalities, realities of construction, which is great, I think, to have that balance, because this process and this field, the endeavor to build a custom home for clients is about left brain and right brain activity. So having those two balances is key. And we may try to continue that rhythm and keep switching it up on you guys. So we do one really nuts and bolts piece, and then we go a little bit more abstract, nuts and bolts, and go abstract. I think that's a nice rhythm. But feel free to submit any comments or questions you have about this episode or any other topics related to the design and construction of your custom home. And then join us again next Friday for another live stream with ROST Architects. Thanks so much.